Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Greater Freedom. I am joined by a wonderful guest today, Abbie, who is a marketing and business coach, helping coaches add recurring revenue to their monthly sales and income. I'm going to be diving into lots of juicy conversations today, I'm sure, all about Abbie's journey, but also how she incorporates freedom into her life and some of the decisions that she's made along the journey to help facilitate that and open up to more freedom, more abundance, and I'm sure more fulfillment in areas of her life as well. So, Abbie, I'm going to pass over to you. Please do introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your business.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me on. So I am a marketing and business coach, and I help women specifically create powerful messaging and positioning so they can bring more income in through their incredible programs. I have around 8 years experience in branding and marketing. I came from the corporate world, and I also have a master's in marketing. So I did a lot of the psychology things. I love that kind of stuff. So I started my business 2 years ago. Nearly to the day. And I went actually full-time in my business in May 2022. So
amazing.
Quite recently.
Super exciting. And well, there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention about the psychology behind marketing, slightly off topic, but I think that's such a key component that I'm sure quite often is overlooked, getting focused on like the strategy side of things and learning from like a textbook, but not necessarily thinking about like the psychology that goes into buying. So is that something that you work a lot with your clients about? Do you think it's something that is maybe overlooked? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that a little bit more.
For sure. I think, we can overcalculate everything. Like there's so many things that we're told we should and shouldn't do. And there's so much that goes into like different types of buyers, the way that we buy. I know that I've even changed the way that I buy based on like your own perception and your own perspective on things and, the pricing and all of these things. There's lots of different things that go into the way that you sell. And I think at the end of the day, focusing on service rather than like overly focusing on strategy, in terms of like brand advocates, brand loyalty, that is all in marketing, like you being able to do more like lean back selling almost from having all of that. And it's definitely something I work on with my clients. We don't talk about the psychology of marketing, but in terms of like the way of creating content that sells in terms of like storytelling, selling specifically. I love diving deep into someone's story and being like, every like session, I'm like, that could be a content idea, I feel like I just see like one of my like special superpowers is being able to like see things from what people are saying and make it into something that sounds super juicy, like connecting the dots for people.
Yeah. And that's so important because we can have the idea, we can have the vision, we can set up, funnels or processes or amazing landing pages. But if it's not going to resonate with our ideal customer, then it's going to be much harder to create those conversions. And people do connect with other people based on their stories, their experience, how much they can relate to them, which is why it's so important to have that vulnerable side to you as, especially I think in sort of the types of businesses that we have, where it's, we might be individual founders or we might have a small team, but it's a service-based business. So the people are going to invest in you based on who you are, not necessarily how immaculate your strategy is.
Yeah. And I think actually we get so attached. Like I definitely did that. I think the first year of my business, I always say it was like the strategy when I was like learning like how, and then like the second year, like this year, I've really like, not that I never really used my voice, but really this year I have let go of that perfectionism and really leaned in to learning more about myself, having confidence behind my own voice. And that's what I've helped clients with this year. And that's the difference between learning strategy and implementing an effective strategy. Anyone can copy a caption framework, but if you have to copy and paste that caption framework every time, you're not going to build that trust and connection with someone.
Yeah, exactly. And what would you say was the sort of shift or the realization that moved you from that first year of like, okay, this is the strategy, into actually stepping forward, kind of dropping the, I guess, worry or fear about, oh, what are people going to think, and actually stepping into who you are, which has clearly had such a positive impact on the success of your business and where you are now?
I would say it was like the belief that, like, I think shift in the first year, I remember that, like, I was like, I just want this to work. I want this to work. I want this to work. I want this to work. And then when things shifted and they started happening, I was like, this is actually a thing now. Like, I feel like when you first start your business, there's an element of like you testing it out. Whereas when I quit my full-time job and I went in, I took a consultancy client on for 3 days a week with an old employer. And I remember being like, I'm all in now, because now I have left full-time employment. I don't know why I did this, but like, it is full-time employment.
Yeah.
You know, I was like making a commitment, and I was like, this is me now. Like, I need to like really go all in. And I think the more confidence you have in yourself, the more you are confident in sharing your voice without judgment. And my clients were getting incredible results, so that also built my confidence in being like, I'm actually really great at what I do, and that really helped.
It's sort of one of those funny things in hindsight, and it sounds like you're the same, but I'll speak for myself. It's sort of, it seems so obvious now, but naturally at the beginning of your journey, of course, there's going to be areas where you feel like you're lacking confidence, or you're trying to replicate someone else's strategy, or you're trying to, you know, use words that you think might impress on social media. And it does take a little bit of time to carve out who you are as the business owner, showing up online in a way that you've probably never shown up before, because, you know, the way that I use my personal Instagram to my business Instagram account is, of course, very different. And it is adjusting to that new way of being. But as you say, I think a lot of it really does come down to confidence. So I'm just thinking of anyone that might be listening and is still in that phase of, I know I'm probably not showing up as my full self. So actually it does link a bit to that freedom of, I don't feel like I'm had the total freedom yet to be who I want to be, or be that business owner that I'm aspiring to be. Is there anything that comes to mind that you would recommend? Maybe you've had clients that have been in similar situations, or just based on your own journey that you think would be relevant to share?
100%. So I actually had a client call this morning. We had a mastermind call, and one of my clients was saying how much her confidence has grown. And I asked her this question. I was like, what do you feel has made the difference? We've been working together for nearly 2 years. She's like one of my longest standing clients. And she said it is taking like small steps of uncomfortable things over and over again. And I think that, you know, I'm not saying, I always say to people, like, I'm not going to go and tell you to go live on Instagram if you don't want to go live on Instagram, because you're just going to have terrible, like it's going to stress you out. You're not going to enjoy doing it, and then you're not going to do it again. Like, I'm all for like doing uncomfortable things, but I think doing it in stages. If like putting your opinion on a post feels uncomfortable, you do it, and then you do it again, and then you realize that like it's not that bad, and you kind of just ease yourself in. For me personally, I built my confidence on doing the things that I said I was going to do. Like, I built the belief and trust in myself that I was like, and this sounds so basic, but literally my to-do list, completing it at the end of the day and actually doing the things I said I was going to do, rather than like procrastinating or like self-sabotaging, like actually doing the things I said I was going to do, built my confidence so much, because I was like, actually, I can do this.
Yeah. And yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because I had a similar conversation, not necessarily linked to confidence, but around achieving the momentum and the sort of financial goal that a client of mine had set. And she, you know, I think it's been about 2.5 months since we've been working together now, and she's seen a real shift in the results that she has created. And I said, what do you think it is that, you know, you're suddenly seeing the momentum? And I sort of had an idea, but I thought I'll use the reflection and see if she can acknowledge it. And it came down to that know, like, trust factor of, actually, when you're showing up online, especially if you're newer into the business, it will take a bit of time for people to know you, then like you, and then trust you as being someone that they want to invest in or have guided, like be guided by. And it's exactly that. It's the small daily steps. It's the intentional action that then creates those bigger results, as opposed to thinking, oh, I'm not there yet, i.e. there being a year, 2 years down the line to earning X amount. And it's that belief, once again, of actually, I know that I can do it. It's something that I'm adamant is going to happen, and focusing on those sort of daily actions to make it become a reality.
Yeah, and it's so funny because when I used to listen to people on like podcast episodes or like guest expert sessions that would come into the things that I was doing, and I would always look at them and be like, oh my God, they're so confident. Like I could never do that. And like the first time that I ever recorded a podcast episode like this, I literally like wanted to poo my pants. Like literally was absolutely terrified. And so if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, I could never like go live on Instagram or talk on stories or like do all these things. The people that you see doing the things in confidence did them when they weren't confident. That's how they got confident. And I think that, you know, the first time I recorded my own podcast episode, it took me 3 hours to record a 20-minute one. Now I just literally get on and riff. But like, if I hadn't have done that really uncomfortable one, I never would be where I am now. And confidence is something that is built. It's not, you know, that those people that are confident, they didn't just be born, they weren't just born confident. They were doing things that made them more confident. Have you cut out?
Oh, can you hear me? That's so strange. No, I will carry on.
So I can't remember what I was saying, but
the people that were were sort of showing up as confident now weren't sort of born confident, but
yeah. So the people that were like that are showing up, they weren't born confident. You know, there is a lot of times as well where people were confident, then they lost their confidence because of something that happened to them, and it's building that confidence again.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of like fake it till you make it, but also doing things that feel aligned to you and the way that you want to run your business. Like you're saying, if you really hate going on Instagram Live, then don't stress about that. There's ways that you can build a very successful business without needing to go on Instagram Live. Equally, finding things that you do enjoy that, you know, you feel you can show more of your personality or add a bit more sort of, personalization to the way that you're doing things. And I think that ultimately will lead to success further down the line. Okay, so coming back to your journey of leaving corporate, working with a consultancy client, and then going full-time back in May, that to me suggests sort of opening up to more freedom in terms of the way that you want to be spending your days, the business that you are running. What were some of the decisions that you had to make, I guess, around that April, May time when it was like, do you know what, actually, I'm going all in. Any of those decisions sort of came into mind to help facilitate where you are now.
Yeah. So I just want to like note with this. So I actually think staying in that job, like having that income actually created so much freedom for me. And I think I would never, ever recommend to someone just quit your job and go for it. Because for a lot of people, that actually like stresses them out so much. And that would have stressed me out so much, not knowing how I could pay my mortgage, you know, like I would literally have been like so stressed. I've been working from a place like that. So I think the decision and the choice to stay in a role where I was earning very good money, I was on a day rate. So I was able to work 3 days a week and be able to pay my mortgage, have overflow, being able to pay into investments that I wanted to. I've always invested very stretchy because of that, because I've been in that position where everything I've earned, I've invested back into my business because I already had something else that was covering me. So that for me was a choice of freedom that I was able to do that. And so I took on a contract that was, I think it was May until April. And then the company asked me to stay on. And I said, I'll stay on for 2 months and I'll stay on for 2 days rather than 3 days. So from, I think, April to the 30th of May, I think it was, I worked 2 days a week. Now, it was very stressful doing both. Like, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to say that it was. To do both is very difficult. Your mind is being pulled between two different things. Because I was doing a job that I was basically a marketing lead for projects, and really that job could have been 5 days, but I was doing it in 3. So it actually was very intense. I had a lot of Zoom calls. I had very much Zoom fatigue in those 3 days. So when I was doing the 2 days that were for me, or the 3 days that were for me, I was quite exhausted. And so it meant that I was still working a lot of weekends and evenings. But I was fine. That was a decision that I made. And it meant that I was covered financially, which for me was that freedom that I wanted. So when I decided to leave on the 30th of May, I remember being like, this is the big shift. And, I knew it was going to happen. And funnily enough, like, I didn't think it was blocking me at all. Like, I'd already kind of been like, I've been doing this for a year, self-employed, because I was being paid as a self-employed person. So like, I was self-employed for a year before. And so when June ended up being, I think it was a 16K sales month. Woo-hoo. And it was a big month. And I genuinely feel like energetically, like, leaving that role opened up like a bigger month for me. And I didn't realize subconsciously that it was stopping me. There was an element of me not being able to show up fully, because on those 3 days, not that I wasn't the same person, but like, I wasn't exactly as I am on my Instagram. Corporate professional world is very, like, you cannot be your full self.
The energy, it's a different energy, isn't it? And it really does, it sort of has a ripple effect. So I'm not surprised that there was a bit of a misalignment. Yeah.
And also, I don't really like doing anything I don't want to do. So there were some things that I found really boring that I obviously wouldn't have chosen to do. But yeah, so that for me was, obviously, like, I don't regret staying in that role. I actually love the people and I actually really like the role. But now I just made the decision that I was like, this is what I want to do. And now I've made the choice from a place of, overflow. And I was able to say, no to money. I was basically obviously leaving money on the table that I could have kept doing. And I could have kept doing it. But I was like, right now feels like the right time to move.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important to mention. It's like you were doing it from a place of overflow. So the energy of going into this next chapter was excitement, abundance, freedom and high vibes, versus, oh God, this is going to be so hard. What if this doesn't happen? Et cetera, et cetera. And also so great to mention, that everyone is in different scenarios, and it's not just, I speak, one of my clients at the moment is in a similar position to you, whereby she has a freelance role that she's still working on 2 or 3 days a week, but she's looking to grow her business. And I said, how amazing that you've got this other stream of stable revenue coming in, so that you can really show up with so much abundance and a sort of positive mindset when it comes to your business, because this is more money that's going to be coming in. Like, you're already experiencing a feeling of abundance. You're already experiencing money coming in frequently. And now we can kind of ride that and build the momentum and channel that back into your own business. And it sounds like that was the same sort of similar position to what you were in.
100%. And there's actually a really weird story about how this role came about, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so basically in January 2021, I was working as a marketing manager, and I was working, well, obviously pandemic, we were like 800% up with the same amount of team, and it was very stressful. And I remember I wrote a journal post on January like 8th or something, saying, for a future visualization, saying, I'm working 3 days a week for my business, like self-employed, so I'm able to work 3 days for this role that I have and 2 days working for my business. And I dated it the 8th of April, and I only found it like just January this year. I look back, and the day that an old employer offered me this role, the day that they messaged me on LinkedIn was the same day as I wrote this future visualization.
Oh my gosh, goosebumps! That's incredible.
So get your future visualizations out, because honestly, like, it works.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that. And it's a nice reminder as well of, despite where you are now, actually we can still get excited, or we all can get excited about where it is that we're going. And it's links back to what we said earlier about it's the daily steps, and it's that intentional action, and it's the focus on what is it that I want to create for myself? What do I want my day to day to look like? How do I want to be running my business? And actually making decisions to enable that. But also things like journaling and visualizations and meditations and all that juicy goodness aside from like the day to day. On that topic, actually, do you have any kind of go-to practices or rituals or elements of your morning routine that you use to help you kind of protect, I guess, that level of freedom that you've created despite your business continuing to grow?
Yes, 100%. So I use an app called the Superhuman app, which I mentioned to all of my clients.
How does that?
Oh, it will change your life. It's like $24 a month or something. It will change your life. So what I love about it is you have writing meditations, walking meditations, running meditations, cleaning meditations, chilling meditations, cooking meditations. So I rarely do, I probably do it once a week where I do a seated meditation. I also do, they have travel ones. So I just flew back from Malta last night. So I actually do the travel ones when I'm flying. Like if you meditate when you're flying, you literally feel like you're flying. Obviously you're flying, but you literally feel like you're floating. It's the weirdest thing ever.
I need to get on this.
It's such a good app, honestly. Like I swear by it. Like I use it every day. And the writing ones I absolutely love because I feel like they get you in that focused state without you actually having to just sit. Like I'm not really a seated meditation person. I know there's probably loads of reasons why that is, but I'm just not someone who likes to sit and do that. Yeah. And so it's like training your mind while you're doing things to focus on like one thing. So the Superhuman app is what I use. I do journal every day as well. But those are like my two non-negotiables. I don't have like a super long morning routine. Yeah. I swear by like a to-do list that is like numbered or like that is in an agenda. And also at the end of the day, I'll just make sure I write my to-do list for the next day so I can like switch off from work. Yeah. Basically all I do. Super simple.
Love that. And also I think, sometimes we can overcomplicate what we need to do, what we should do, in terms of morning routine. And once again, it comes back to curating something that's going to work for you based on your energy, your circadian rhythms, whether you're a morning person or like to have a bit of a lie-in. And also sometimes like we don't necessarily need a strict morning routine to achieve success. We can kind of be a bit more intuitive, which is definitely something that I learned or have learned, is allowing myself to step away from my routine of, journal, tapping, meditation. It's like, actually, if one day I'm not really feeling like doing an element of it, then that's fine, because I'm not going to force it. Like you say, you don't need to force it, doing a seated meditation. I love the idea of doing a cleaning meditation. That just sounds so like zen and productive.
I know. I love doing something like that. I know that they say you shouldn't multitask, but I just love being able to do something while I'm doing something else.
Especially something like cleaning, because you're not using your mind necessarily. As if it was like, I don't know, writing a newsletter and then trying to do a meditation, that sort of is a bit counterproductive. But yeah, I think walking or cleaning is perfect.
I really rate it. I would highly recommend.
Okay, well, I'm going to check that afterwards, and I'll try and remember to mention it in the show notes so people can have a look as well. Now, just before we wrap up, I would love to hear from you any sort of key lessons that you've learned from your business journey so far that might be helpful to share with listeners. I feel like we've covered quite a few already, but based on your realm of expertise, maybe in terms of like helping clients add that extra recurring revenue, for example, if someone's listening and thinking, oh, that's me, how do I get to that next 5K, 10K per month? What could you share based on what you've learned from your business journey?
Amazing, of course. So many lessons. I feel like it's a really loaded question, but I'll try.
Sorry, yeah.
I'll try and think of I do think that something that I see a lot of people doing is when they want to add more income, they think, let's add more into my product suite. And then they kind of get distracted, diluted, overwhelmed, and then they basically feel like nothing is working because they're trying lots of different things without really investing and being intentional with their time and their energy. And I think the internet, there is going to be, you could open Instagram now and I could have conflicting things that are saying different things. And so it's about finding a product suite that works for you. And I do think this is complete trial and error. I've trialed having a call every week, a call bi-weekly. That now I do 3 calls per month. Sorry, not per week, per month. So either like a call per week, 3 calls per month, or bi-weekly. That I now do 3 calls every month, my one-to-ones, because I feel like that's the right level for me. And so it's kind of figuring out what your product suite, what you want your product suite to look like, not because you want it to be, of course we want a profitable product suite, but we also want one that we enjoy and that we love doing. And so what I would say is that if you're looking to bring in more income, is firstly look at what you're already doing. Like, is there huge energy leaks that are making you feel like you can't take on clients, or that you don't have capacity for clients? So even though you're saying, I want more clients, actually you're feeling like so burnt out and that you have no time to do anything. That you need to tidy up what you're already doing with clients. Then when you went to like go to create, like, do you want to create something that is a one-to-many program, or do you want to hone in on your one-to-ones and just have a higher pricing? You know, like, I know people that are making, like, I feel like people always say about like group programs and doing things, but I have group programs and I have courses that make sense in live courses. So if I'm teaching, you know, I've got something coming up around like money mindset. If I'm teaching something, it makes sense in a group because I'm teaching it to lots of people rather than having to repeat the same thing to one person. But like, then I'm like, I also like to do one-to-one coaching. And I think there's this huge thing online about everyone wants passive income and everyone wants group coaching, but then are they getting the level of support that they need? Some people love one-to-one coaching. I love being one-to-one coached. And so I love to have one-to-one coaching in my belt. And I think sometimes we can get a bit lost in like all of the things around creating passive things, putting all of our energy into these lower ticket things that feel like but we're creating income, but actually we're creating distractions.
It's so true. And it is that, exactly as you say, like, what makes sense to you? You know, how do you, once again, it comes back down to the freedom element and your lifestyle element. Like, what does your dream lifestyle look like? And how can you make that happen with building a business that enables that to be your reality now? Is it working with less clients that are higher ticket? Is it having a few group programs? Is it doing a little blend of both? Forgetting what other people are doing, forgetting what other people are charging, turning back inwards on what do I want? What does success look like to me? And what can I create that's going to enable incredible transformation, impact, excitement, energy with the clients that I'm working with as well?
Yeah, and we can change through like seasons of our life. So right now, I have always wanted one-to-one coaching. Like, whenever I was working full time, I was just picturing myself running group containers. Like, I have a mastermind and I'm obsessed with the women in it. Like, I love running those containers. I love jumping on those calls. And because business can be quite lonely, I love having those group containers, but I also love holding people in a one-to-one space. And if I had, like, let's say I have a passive course and I had no human interaction, that's not the business I want right now. Yeah. But let's say in 5 years' time, when I decide that I, want a child, that could be what I wanted. And then I would change based on that. But I wouldn't, I feel like it's so easy to get influenced by what you see someone else doing. And then we believe that that's kind of what we want. Like, I used to lead into this digital nomad lifestyle, and that I was like, I want to go travel. And then I went traveling and I fucking hated it. I know that I'm probably really unpopular opinion here, but I really didn't enjoy being in a backpack and moving around. I love my space in my house. I've got a dog that I'm obsessed with. I love being at home. Don't get me wrong. I love going on holiday, and I love the flexibility that I can, I went to Malta with my mum this weekend. I went to Rome at the beginning of the month, and I was able to take a 5-day break both days and work while I was there. And it means that I'm able to do that, but I don't lean into the digital nomad lifestyle. And I think sometimes we see things online and we want them, even though we actually wouldn't actually want them. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's all about understanding what lights you up, what kind of business excites you, for the long term, but also being flexible and adaptable, as you said. We can change our mind, we can change the way we run a program, we can do something that we haven't seen anyone else do before, we can put it at the most abundant price point, even though we're seeing other people who are similar to us charging 3 times. And it's we don't know what that looks like, and actually whatever's going to bring us the most
satisfaction and fulfillment and impact to our clients is the way to go. I think that kind of sums it up in a nutshell.
Yeah, and with that, like that's like the power behind your positioning and messaging, right? Because if you are creating something that doesn't feel aligned, and you might have a program that now doesn't feel aligned, and then you either have to change it or create a new one. Because if we lose as we are always growing and evolving as human beings, like in our businesses especially, I feel like it's a humongous personal growth journey, and so we do change our minds, and so when things don't feel aligned, it's really difficult to get behind them and sell them. And so like that's really, in order for you to sell and show up and have powerful positioning, you need to stand behind your offer, and so that alignment is so important.
Oh, I love that. That was so well said, and a perfect place to end. So I'm not going to try and elaborate on that, but thank you so much. So many juicy nuggets and sort of pearls of wisdom in there. So I really appreciate your time and coming onto the podcast. For those of you listening that would like to find out more about Abbie and her services and how you can work with her, Abbie, please let us know where it's best to find you.
Amazing. Yeah. So on Instagram, this is Abigail Jane.
I'll link your handle in the show notes, and any questions that come up whilst you're listening to this episode, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Abbie. And thank you so much again. And I will catch everyone in the next episode. Thanks a lot. Bye.